with demand expected to come back, the question remains, does this mean the economy is back on track?
Companies now, after experimenting with offshore in places like India, Philippines, and Poland, want to bring those jobs back.
We invest in the U.S. We're the biggest exporter in the country. In the cycle we're in right now, we're creating jobs.
From Radio America, it's Neil Asbury's Made in America, the show that explores American industry, large and small, and promotes American-made products everywhere. Put Neil Asbury's Made in America to work for you.
A very big welcome to you today. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Rich, I'm back from a wonderful vacation from the great state of Colorado. Boy, that is a beautiful state. I love the summer sports in Colorado. You know, a lot of people go to Colorado to ski. I love to ski there as well. But summer in Colorado is absolutely gorgeous.
There's a different psychology. I used to go to Aspen with my first wife and family.
Aspen?
I used to go to Aspen.
Hooty snooty sort of liberal
right.
sort of a dude?
But no, it was good skiing. And we would go twice a year. One for the skiing in February, go to Snowmass or something. And then in the summertime, we come back, stay at the Hotel Jerome, which is sort of like my fraternity house when I was at Syracuse, in those days anyway. And then you have a whole different psychology. You're right, in the summer. And it's magnificent out in Colorado. Whitewater rafting, hiking, doing all sorts of stuff that you wouldn't normally do in the wintertime.
Well, mountain biking, one of the things, mountain biking is absolutely crazy. You take these, I go to Breckenridge, and it's got the highest ski lift in the Americas, is actually, I think it's like over 13,000 feet. Well, anyway, you take the chair up to the top of the mountain, and then you ride a bike down the mountain. I mean, you're going like 3,000 feet. You're dropping 3,000 feet in elevation in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, that would probably go well with my wife, Gloria. She'd do well with that. I can just see that happening.
Yeah. Right now, my elbow and my knees are like all beat up from like falling off the bike. But
look down there. Okay, Gloria, I want you to get on that Schwinn, and then I want you to go down that hill. Well, mountain. All right, but don't think of it as a mountain. It'll scare you.
But, getting back to business here, I mean, we've had a pretty wild week.
You can tell we've been gone.
Yes. We're fresh. We're freshened up. All that beautiful alpine air. But here we go. I mean, we had a hell of a week. A lot of things going on. The debate happened this week, or two debates happened this week. We're going to talk about that just in a little while with Michael Joyce, who's the Deputy Press Secretary of the RNC. Going to be a very fascinating discussion. We're going to talk about the skills gap in our country and how that's going to cost our economy $1.2 trillion over the next decade. So we're creating a lot of jobs, but there's a lot of jobs that are not going fulfilled.
Yeah, that's a serious problem.
We don't have the skills.
That's a serious problem that we better start, taking care of.
Well, let's just talk about how how liberalism has run amok, and it's continuing to set the bar higher and higher. And I'm talking about a news story this week, and it plays into this whole progressive thing, and it's just crazy stuff going on in our country, and it's just like watch these debates and everything they want to do. But Berkeley is really at the front of this. I mean, just recently they have banned natural gas. First city in the United States to do that.
Well, that makes sense. Probably nothing will happen with that.
That's because they want everything to be electric, but that electric comes from coal.
See, they miss that part, don't they? Really? Everything's got to be electric.
Natural gas is very clean.
Where does the electric come from?
I don't know. Well,
they don't know. That's the point. They don't know.
They don't know.
They have no idea.
No one's filled them in.
Yeah, it comes from, let me think, coal.
We're going to introduce our first guest, Jim Kennedy, a great friend of the show from the Kennedy Institute of Public Policy Research. Jim, welcome to Made in America.
Thanks. Appreciate being here.
So what in the world are the good folks in Berkeley thinking about, and where do they think electric comes from in the first place?
I'm guessing unicorn excrement, I'm guessing, is where they're figuring it comes from. California natural gas is by far
the new Green Deal.
Best.
I think that's part of that. There is no unicorn excrement.
But I thought we were already done because the new Green Deal said we had to do something within 12 years, like 15 years ago. So we're already doomed. I think Mr. Yang was saying during the debates that you have to get people to higher ground because we're already past the tipping point and we're all going to be underwater if you live within 50 miles of the coast or something, which Berkeley does, which may actually be a good thing. I don't know. But no, you're correct. They want to get rid of natural gas, which in California is one of the primary sources of electrical power. We actually don't burn too much coal in California because we don't have a lot of it naturally, and it just costs too much to truck it across the country. It stays usually in the Midwest.
But Jim, a lot of the electricity for California comes from Nevada and Arizona. And they do burn coal. So, no,
they do.
They're importing their
you're
electric.
Correct. In those states, they do. But we don't burn too much locally in California because they've shut down the environmental requirements for emissions. It would not allow you to burn
Well, okay,
coal.
so just let Nevada and Arizona do it, and we can feel good about it. I don't know.
But we do burn a lot of natural gas here. It is very low on the emissions. In fact, it is the stuff that a lot of things, when we did get rid of coal in California, it did go to, was natural gas. It's very low in emissions, and many people have always said this is the best alternative if you're going to do a carbon-based burning or carbon-based emission. Natural gas is some of the lowest you can get to generate electrical power. So where they're going to get the electrical power from, I don't know. I think what they are expecting is that they're going to get it all from renewable sources, solar, wind. We don't do much hydro in California. A little bit. The Northwest does a lot more hydro. We do get a little bit of hydro from the Colorado River, but for the most part, I don't think they really understand where this is going to come from and the unintended consequences of the additional costs they're going to be putting on builders in an area that has already had exorbitant costs for housing and constant complaints of housing problems for the homeless because why? They can't afford to live there. So now you're just making that problem worse. You're exacerbating it by adding on additional costs to where you can't provide affordable housing as it is.
Well, Jim, you can't even afford affordable electricity. Remember, I don't know if you guys remember this, but back in the 70s, when we had the first oil crisis, at that time, parallel to that, the U.S. was going through an electrification scenario. They were in upstate New York, and everybody was switching to electricity because it was so inexpensive. Everybody went to, total electric homes, total heating home. That's the important point. And then the oil crisis hit, and the price of electricity went nuts. In upstate New York, people could not afford to heat their homes, Neil. That's a fact. They couldn't afford to heat their homes. In this case, Jim, it sounds like they're going to have a lot of trouble paying people electricity to get into their homes to heat it and to air condition it, because it sounds like it's going to be $30, $40, $50 a month more just for your electricity.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where it's going to come from either, where they're actually going to generate the additional power they're going to need to basically fill this gap. And I don't know how long they have to basically retrofit these things. This is going to go forward with new buildings. I don't know what the time frame is, though, for how long until existing buildings are going to be allowed to basically rotate this stuff out, because you're also talking about food preparation, commercial kitchens. They use extensively natural gas in those, because if you know anybody who's a chef or a chef type, they much prefer natural gas for cooking than electrical power, because you have much more control over the flame and the energy on it with natural
Jim,
gas.
I'm a manufacturer of commercial kitchen equipment.
You do that.
I make these products, and I can tell you that natural gas is the most efficient way to run a commercial kitchen. And in the appliances that you buy that run on natural gas, because we use so many of them in the United States, are significantly less expensive than what electric appliance costs. And then to run the appliance, natural gas is so much less expensive than an electric appliance. So the capital cost of buying the appliance is much less, and then to run it is much less. So, California, you got this $15 an hour minimum wage for anybody working in a commercial kitchen. Now you're going to be paying double, triple what it costs to buy the appliance. And then you're going to be paying double, triple to run the appliance. How in the world are they going to have a business out there with this cost structure keep escalating?
Well, haven't you ever heard of a $12 Big Mac?
Well, I think it's coming to that. I really do, because California, if they can't run natural gas appliances, the whole food service, the whole restaurant industry, the hotel industry, the whole restaurants, fast food, everywhere. The cost to run a business is going to escalate. The unintended consequences, of making these decisions and not knowing how it's going to impact the economy downstream.
No, exactly. You always see this with the virtue signaling of the liberal left, and they want to do the good thing, but they never, ever think about the unintended consequences of what happens when they do one of these things. They just look at, this will be good, we'll get rid of greenhouse gases. But like you said, when we're talking about housing costs, you're talking about commercial kitchen, you're talking about food service, you're talking about all of these areas that are impacted that nobody sees beyond their little bubble of, oh, I just want to fix climate change in my little world, and I don't really care what happens. I'll just have to adapt. And this costs money. It costs jobs in some cases. It definitely hurts businesses. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of places that some of the restaurants may go out of business just because of the additional cost. They can't afford these businesses, especially restaurants right now in the Bay Area with all of the $15 an hour and all of the other costs. They have, I believe they also right now have a guaranteed add-on fee that they're adding on for mandatory health insurance for the workers that work in the restaurant field. So that's an extra tab that goes on your bill if you look at it in the city of San Francisco. So all of these things added up, people have really stopped going out because it's just got to be too expensive as it is. Plus their housing is going up, so they can't afford to go out as much. So it's just a vicious cycle, and the left just doesn't look at these things.
Hey, Jim, let's take a quick break there. We're going to be right back. Jim, can you stay with us?
Sure.
And we're going to be right back. We're talking with Jim Kennedy from the Kennedy Institute of Public Policy Research. A lot to talk about. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman, and we have with us Jim Kennedy from the Kennedy Institute of Public Policy Research. So, Jim, it's always great to be talking about the city of Berkeley and the liberal madness that's going on there, but it just doesn't stop at Berkeley. I mean, it's California itself. And if we really want to be honest, it's the whole country, at least the Democrat Party, who's jumping off this progressive cliff. And, wow, if you watch the debates, we're going to talk about that just in a minute. But it's just there's no end to it. And anybody that has any sort of moderate position, and there was press even today coming out that a lot of the left journalists are saying Obama was a Republican. He was a Republican.
They were attacking Obama.
He was too conservative.
Absolutely.
Obama is a Republican. Wow. They have really, and this is only 4 years ago. Absolutely incredible. But Newsom comes to town, takes over the state of California, and boy, he's just all in on this liberal madness, isn't he?
No, absolutely. He is definitely not Jerry Brown, and he's not doing much of Jerry Brown's legacy as far as fiscal restraint. He's only done one thing that has actually been somewhat responsible. He has begun to make some lump sum payments to pay down the overwhelming problem of unfunded liabilities in the state pension system for CalPERS and CalPERS teachers and the state employees. But outside of that, he is a spending liberal like crazy. I mean, you've got Berkeley, like we talked about earlier. That is basically, the poster child for liberalism with the Bay Area. Within the state, that's the poster child for liberalism, California. So, basically one leads to the other. I mean, Gavin Newsom is making California safe from plastic straws. So you have to give him credit for that.
And natural gas. Well, I guess soon it will be natural gas. What's the chances of California? I understand that there's a number of places in California that's already considering this natural gas ban. I mean, will Newsom make that a state issue?
I don't know if he will. It's quite possible. I mean, California very much hates the internal combustion engine with a passion. And I've already predicted, I said 2050, but I may be way late on that. It may be closer to 2040, if not sooner. I mean, if they could get rid of internal combustion engines today in California, they would ban them. They just know that the disruption would basically either everybody would flee the state, or you'd simply just have an absolute gridlock as far as the ability to have transportation because of the still reliance on the internal combustion engine. But they would love to get rid of it. And sometime within the next 20 to 30 years, I'm fairly sure that there will be no internal combustion engines allowed in California.
Well, they also years ago changed the formation of the gasoline. In California, had a special mixture of gasoline that we didn't have on the East Coast of the United States. It was much more expensive, and everything in terms of transportation and so forth is very much more expensive in California than is anywhere else in the country. They really do lead the way in insanity.
But Jim, this might be a naive. this might be a naive question, but when I go to California, I meet all the people out there, and there's some wonderful people. I really enjoyed it. A beautiful state. I mean, it's so incredible to me that California, this incredible state, all this brain power out there, all these companies. I mean, they got incredible companies, incredible. The economy, what is it, the 5th largest economy in the world, something like that?
It's the breadbasket of the United States.
In the agricultural side, I mean, there is a lot of great and normal people, entrepreneurs, hardworking people. I mean, where are all these people that's jumping off the cliff? I don't meet them. I don't see them when I'm out there. They must be there because, they keep doing this crazy stuff. But it's amazing to me, to see California, such a great state, doing all this stuff that's going to, that's going to hurt itself.
Well, remember, a lot of the people in this state follow that policy. They vote with the D next to their name, or they vote for the person with the D next to their name, the Democrat. When it comes to the elections, the California Republican Party is but a shadow of what it used to be. In fact, a few months ago, no party preference, NPP, passed the Republican Party as the number 2 registration within the state. So the people that are sitting there on the daily basis, they'll go to the gas station, they'll grouse about the gas, they'll fill up their car, they'll drive off, and they'll forget about it, and then they'll drive down the coast highway and look out at the ocean and the hills on the other side and say, this is a great place, and I forgot that I just paid 40% more than I could pay in Arizona or any other state for gasoline. And that goes on because they're also probably getting paid 30 or 40% more because they work for a firm in California that's in high tech or in entertainment or something that pays very well, and goes home to their 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot house that costs $800,000.
Huh. Very, very fascinating. Thank you for saying that, because you really shed some light on it. You really did. So let's talk about now the national sort of craziness, the liberal madness. Now, you've seen these. You've seen the debates and all of that and what's going on. So California is really leading the way, and a lot of the national Democrat politicians are really taking their plays out of the California playbook.
Sure. And plus, we've got a large donor base to go after. The entertainment industry loves Democrats. They come out here to mine that money. And now Silicon Valley loves Democrats. And they come out here to mine the money from there. So they basically are constantly coming to California, and they're constantly trying to take the money home with them.
Hey, Jim. Hey, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. Jim Kennedy from the Kennedy Institute of Public Policy Research. Great to talk to you. Come back and join us again real soon.
Will do. Love it as always. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Rich, coming up, we have Nathan Latka, who's the author of How to Be a Capitalist Without Any Capital. I wonder how you do that. But we're also going to talk about the skills gap. A very, very fascinating young man. You don't want to miss it.
Made in America.
Sharply higher at the open, stocks continued to perform well over the course of the day Tuesday.
And I think that bodes well here over the next couple of years for having bigger demands coming to this country.
Now, more of Neil Asbury's Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, in the whole Democrat presidential debates, we are getting a little glimpse about education and skills and what we need about skills. I think, as a country, both right and left, we have to have a really, really serious dialogue with ourselves about how to prepare our young people. But it's not just our young people. I mean, it's people who've had careers who might need to be retrained because maybe an industry or part of our economy, it's always evolving, and certain jobs are going away, but others are being created, and it's an ongoing thing that we have to train our people. And it's across all demographics. It's across all ages. I mean, think about all the people that's not in the workforce right now that could be in the workforce, but they don't have the skill. And this should not be limited by age. I mean, hey, look, we're all living a lot longer, right? That's a great thing. So it means that we have more years to work. We're going to need to have the skills, though, to be able to work.
Well, it also means, if we think about it, there's a whole generation that's gotten older, and they're getting to a retired point of view, and they're going to be out, and we have to replace those skills. Think about those people with associate degrees and advanced degrees and so forth that are going to be dropping out of the marketplace. Those have to be replaced. If we don't address that, Neil, then we have an incredible gap of necessary skills to just maintain where we are, no less progress into the future.
Exactly. Very big issue. We got to have a national dialogue. We should be talking about it. Look forward to it as well. Hey, we got Nathan Latka on, and he's the author of an incredible book. It's How to Be a Capitalist Without Any Capital. Sounds
where we see all these years for us.
It sounds counterintuitive. Great stuff. We're going to talk about his book very quickly. He's going to tell us how to be a capitalist without any capital, and we're going to talk about skills. Hey, Nathan, welcome to Made in America.
Neil, Dr. Rich, how are you guys doing?
Good. So tell us, I mean, a very catchy title. So how do you become a capitalist without any capital?
Well, look, I mean, I want to get into the story, but I have to tell you guys, you're talking about retirement. I'm going, man, maybe I should retire. You know, you make a lot of money. You're 29 years old. You want to live on a beach somewhere, right? That's how it works.
I wish I figured out what you figured out when you figured it out.
All right,
it's taken me a lot longer than that.
We want to read that book.
There you go. No, I mean, I'm half kidding. Look, I'm 29 today, and the reason I wrote the book, first off, books are like you lose a lot of money, you lose a lot of time. It's not a lot of fun to write a book, but everyone was going, Nathan, you have to write a book, because when I was 19, I launched a company in my dorm room when I realized the college degree I was getting didn't pay anything. I was studying architecture at Virginia Tech. And so I said, I'm going to go make my own money. And I started pre-selling stuff online. Pre-sold $70,000. Long story short, built that company up to about $1 million a year run rate, turned down a $6.5 million acquisition offer when I was 21, and then ultimately dropped out and built the company before selling it completely a couple years later. And so now today, you know, I'm running a private equity firm. I'm investing in all kinds of companies and just have total financial freedom, following a very unconventional path.
Well, fascinating. So, hey, folks, how to be a capitalist without any capital. You know, that is the sort of, the tagline here in order to get you to go online and buy this book and to figure this out. Great stuff. Hey, but Nathan,
don't buy it, by the way. Like, look, get it for free. I mean, I'll give you some of the stuff for free right away, because
wow, really that's even better.
This is good.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are game, I'll give you a couple of these things.
Well, good. Well, talk to our producer, Phil, and get us that book. And
there you go.
Wonderful stuff. We'll get you back after I read it. I'll get you back. And, I'm an entrepreneur, a little bit older than you, built up a nice business. But I'd love to get your insights and bring you back on and share them with our listeners. But let's get to skills real quick.
They're welcome to check it out. They can go to capitalistbook.com and get a lot of the content for free, including my tax returns to actually see the money I made using the tactics. So, yeah, go check it out there. But definitely want to talk about skills gap.
So tell us, I mean, in the next, that's great stuff. I mean, go online, see it, and it won't cost you anything, and you're fascinating. Hey, you're a great guy, great American for making that available to us. But skills. I mean, we hear a lot about it in national dialogue. I don't think we talk about it enough. But a headline this week, skills gap to cost the economy $1.2 trillion over the next decade. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, and the skills that we're talking about are good-paying jobs. I mean, it's just not any job, but these are good-paying jobs. Very important for our economy.
You're right. I mean, but here's the problem, right? The reason the skills gap exists is because there are more tech jobs than tech degrees. And you ask yourself, why aren't colleges technically training more people? Why isn't that easier? And the problem is because businesses like that, colleges is a business. They're not in the business of equity in their students, making sure their students get a return on what it costs to get the degree. See, colleges are in the debt business, right? They load up students with debt and really don't care what happens after they graduate. So the issue we have is we need people that are facilitating education, whether it's old, young, middle school, high school, college, you name it, right? They've got to have upside, in my opinion, or some responsibility to make sure that whatever they're training people on, there's a real market for. And that's the gap we have to bridge.
But, you just made a very interesting point. And since I've had two kids go through college and financed all that, college is the business. If you think about the conflation of the ability to get a loan, and it's easy to get a loan. My son just picked up the phone, spoke to the folks at Sallie Mae years ago when he was going up to Chicago, and he wound up getting seriously, Neil, it was like right over the phone. And he got a loan for 2 years for his master's degree at Chicago. And of course it was $75,000. It is, but there's such a conflation, and what is the consequence of that is that the prices at the schools go up even higher. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that the more availability of funds, the higher the rates for the colleges. The professors now are making a much better life than they did, trust me, because I taught college years ago. And then at the same time, the administrators are having an even better life than the professors. So it is sort of like this incredible cycle that's going on.
Well, why would you not raise prices if the government's going to subsidize your business? Right? If government's going to give out free money in the form of these loans, or especially, goodness knows, if we start actually paying for these loans by the government, why would the colleges not increase prices? As a capitalist trying to make money, I would. If I was running a college and money was limitless to students, they'd pay anything, I'd double, triple my prices every single year. Yeah, I don't blame the colleges. The problem is the government has gotten too involved, and you're hearing from candidates all over the place that they are saying we should get even more involved, pump more money into the system, and it's really ridiculous. It's going to cause another massive explosion. What needs to happen is someone needs to keep the colleges in check and say, listen, you're not increasing prices anymore, right? They're capped here. That's it. Help students that need help, but really focus on educating people on what companies are willing to pay in terms of the talent, and that is technical jobs, technically trained people.
Very fascinating. Hey, Nathan, we'll get you back real soon because what really connects to this is free college, right? I mean, now everybody's on the Democrat side is saying, hey, you shouldn't even have to get a loan. It should just be all free. You shouldn't have to pay anything. We got to get you back and talk about that because it's a very, very important topic in this election cycle. Nathan Latka, he's got to go run, catch a plane, the author of How to Be a Capitalist Without Any Capital. Nathan, thanks for being on the show.
Dr. Rich Neal, thank you for what you do. Appreciate you.
Coming up, we have Michael Joyce, who's the Deputy Press Secretary, Rich, at the RNC. We're going to talk about what happened this week at the Democrat debates. Someone's got to decipher this for me. I can't figure it out.
I can't wait for this one.
You don't want to miss it.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, in watching the Democrat debates, I watched the first one, and for the 2 nights, and I watched the second one for the 2 nights. I love to watch the commentary. I was actually watching the commentary on CNN to see how they felt that their horses had done. But fascinating. I mean, whenever they're doing these debates, and the moderates are well, I would say the moderates, the super progressives are jumping on the moderates, and the moderates are just kind of there like they're targets. It's like shooting practice. I mean, they're just target practice. Man, there's a moderate, bam, 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 bam. They're shooting them all over the place, and everyone in the audience is really cheering on those crazy progressives, right?
It's like watching the movie The Running Man.
It's like when a moderate says anything, and they're trying to defend Obama of all things, and the moderates are just kind of melting away, and it's the progressives are just keep banging him and banging him and banging him, and the crowd is going wild and wild and wild, But these crazy centrist ideas were Obama's, but the crowd is yelling for it to be destroyed, knock it down. Who's doing more to destroy the Obama legacy is not the Republicans right now, it's the Democrats.
Well, apparently they're against it right now. That's what they're saying. This whole thing is such an amazing conundrum to me. It's insanity. Because, wait a minute, who voted for Obamacare? Let me think who did that. What is the big D for? Democrats. Any Republicans vote for Obamacare? Because I don't remember anyone voting for Obamacare.
And who is going to be the one to get rid of Obamacare? Not the Republicans who voted a zillion times to repeal it. It's going to be the Democrats. Hey, Rich, this is a really crazy story. We got Michael Joyce on with us right now, Deputy Press Secretary of the RNC. I bet you he has some ideas.
I bet he does.
Hey, Michael, welcome to Made in America.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So, what did we witness this week when, if you sat through those 4 hours or 5 hours of debates? I mean, what happened? What went on there?
Yeah, I think the socialist circus came to Detroit, and the civil war in the Democrat Party kind of played out before our very eyes. You look at night one, it seemed as if people like Tim Ryan and John Delaney were shushed by either the moderators or fellow 2020 Democrats, because there really is no avenue anymore to be a moderate Democrat in today's new Socialist Democrat Party. You look at the Socialist Squad, they're the ones driving the message now, and all of the proposals you're hearing on the debate stage, those are the things that they support and are demanding right now. Fast forward to night two, you kind of saw more of the same socialist message, government takeover of our healthcare system. Even 2020 Democrats like Michael Bennett agree that we're going to strip millions of Americans of their private health insurance, and we're going to tax every single American into oblivion to the tune of $30 trillion to pay for the government takeover of our healthcare system. Even 2020 Democrats agree on these things now, and they said it on the debate stage last night. So you're just seeing nothing more than pure, unabashed socialism right now. And I don't know how they think it's going to resonate with the American people who don't want these policies right now.
Well, what I found interesting, and I did have to watch it, and by the way, I ran out of popcorn, and I switched to cherries, so I got healthier. But the truth of the matter is, if you looked at the lines, that they use on Fox, for example, when they talk about when someone says something, and you have the Democratic line, and you have the response from the independents and the GOP, the Republicans. What I found interesting, gentlemen, is that it flatlined with the independents. If you don't get the independents, you don't get to be president. And I didn't see it resonating well with the independents. Did you? Did anyone see that? I didn't.
No, and to give you an example of that, Bernie Sanders in Michigan, he won Michigan in 2016. Medicare for All, which is really just a government takeover of our healthcare system, that's overwhelmingly rejected by Michiganders. So in Detroit, a state that Bernie Sanders won in 2016, the overwhelming electorate in state that's going to come out and vote in 2020 is saying, don't want this. We do not advocate for this. And yet you heard it time and time again, both last night and the night before, folks were advocating for it. The fact that they were trashing the Obama administration and his policies really just shows you how far the party truly has gone to the left.
Well, fascinating. A couple of things there is that whenever any of the moderates, kind of push back on folks, you're not going to get elected with this. Like you're just saying, the American people are not there.
Doesn't resonate.
And Elizabeth Warren would say something like, yeah, but if you don't have a big idea, why are you not running? You're talking from the Republican talking points. What are you doing? You got to have big ideas. And then the crowd cheers and cheers and cheers and yells and yells and yells. Their approval for that sort of logic is to go off the cliff. It's kind of like, hey, on one side, we got to beat Donald Trump, anything to beat Donald Trump. But then they go into these debates and they're doing everything they possibly can to lose to Donald Trump. I mean, nobody's getting the message here. Even Michael Moore this week said, I'm sure we're all following Michael Moore, but he did say nobody on that stage could beat Donald Trump. The only person who can beat Donald Trump is Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama is going to go. All right, all right, little closure on this. Did anyone hear anything from any of those people on how they're going to make America better for Americans? Anyone hear that? Because I didn't hear anything.
But, hey, Michael, we're going to get you back real soon. We're going to cut for a break here, but it's really been wonderful to have you. Michael Joyce, Deputy Press Secretary of the RNC. We're all fired up here at Made in America.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Coming up, Dr. Rothman and I are going to have some final thoughts for the day.
Made in America.
This has to be the party that's not afraid to say out loud, we're going to tax the hell out of the wealthy. And when we do that, Donald Trump, right on cue, will call us socialists. Well, here's what I'll say to him. Donald, you're the real socialist. The problem is, it's socialism for the rich.
Whoa.
Anyone understand what he just said?
Whoa. Unbelievable. Mayor de Blasio. It's funny how he's gone out of his little enclave of New York. They don't even like him in New York. But now he goes around the country, and not even the Democrats like this guy. He's kind of out there on the fringe. He's got us standing there looking like a buffoon, just kind of smiling.
He does look like it. He looks like Beavis and Butthead. There's something wrong with him. I mean, here you're in the city, which is the banking city of the world, is New York City. They have Wall Street, and he's saying, the heck with the wealthy. We're going to tax the heck out of you. What do you think the unintended consequences of that would be? And then he calls Donald Trump a socialist for wealthy. Neil, I am stunned with the insanity that I've been. I'm very mad about it. Very, very mad about it. Very upset.
Sounds like remember the band? This goes back 10 years after. I'd love to change the world. Tax the rich till there's rich no more.
Until they became rich.
Well, it was believe it or not, it was a band back in the late 60s.
That's right.
Talking about the crazy policies of the left, saying that, look, they're going to solve the world's problem by taxing the rich until there are no more rich, meaning that we all have nothing. There's no hope. There's nothing for us to work for, right? Even back then in the 60s, they were able to see the hypocrisy, the stupidity behind just trying to take everything from anybody that has anything, take away the incentive for anybody to try to stand out and to make something happen, to create jobs, to create prosperity, to create wealth, to make things for our country, to make our country work, to make our country strong. Just take it all away. And then what are we going to be? What are we going to be, Rich? We're going to be crawling around in the mud like it was the Dark Ages in Europe. That's what we would be.
Well, yes. I mean, actually, maybe it was healthier then. I don't know.
But with a life expectancy of like 19 years old, right? Because nobody was inventing. Nobody was doing anything.
It was a good 19 years. I mean, come on. You had your horse. You had your friends. You slept with the pigs. It was great. It was wonderful.
You got married at 11, right? You
got married at 11.
A couple of kids at 13 and 14, and you died at 19, right?
Exactly.
What kind of world do they think that we would be if you took away the incentive for people to take risk and to invent and to do things, great things, because there's no incentive to do it? I mean, that's what de Blasio is talking about right now. Just take it all away. Take it all away until there's nothing left.
You know what I find interesting? A lot of foundations are based in New York City. Health foundations and so forth, and art foundations, and all these places that you can give money to. Who do you suppose? Think for a minute. And I'm thinking of Bernie Marcus, for example, from Home Depot. A wonderful man. He founded a great company, multi-billionaire. Do you know how much money he's given in the last few years out of his own pocket from his own foundation? I'll tell you right now because we don't have a lot of time. $2 billion. That was on Fox last week. You can go to Fox News and you can find it. $2 billion from a very wealthy man back into society. And what do you do with that money? Well, at hospitals, we have wings to save children, wings to save men, wings to cure cancer, wings to do all sorts of wonderful things. That's called R&D, research and development. If you don't have the incentive for wealthy people to do that, who's going to do that? The average Jane and Joe? There's nothing wrong with the average Jane and Joe, except for one thing. They're going to need that wing of that hospital or that foundation at some point in their life, and it won't be there. Exactly. The unintended consequences of the insanity that we're listening to right now, I'm telling you, Neil, I cannot believe that America would embrace any of this and realize when it came time to vote that they're going to say, I can't vote for that because I'm voting for my own detriment.
Well, I think that, 30% of the population will vote for it no matter what.
East
Maybe
Coast,
35.
West Coast.
That's right. What did we talk about Jim Kennedy? I mean, if it had a D next to it, you're going to get 35% of the vote. It doesn't matter what they're promoting. And but fortunately, there is the center of the country. And the center of the country does elect presidents, right? They do. They elect presidents. And the center of the country is never, ever, ever going to accept this socialist nightmare. Well, Rich?
Well stated, Mr. Neil.
Well, it's been a great show. Very passionate. Love to have you with me. But Rich, don't get sad, because we're going to be back again next week at the same time for another adventure of Made in America, where we never stop fighting for your jobs.